11 of the darkest deaths and mysteries in Hollywood history, and not one of them was ever fully solved. A director shot in his own study. A star found in a locked car with the engine still warm. A man who played Superman dead on his bedroom floor. For 100 years, this industry has buried its dead quietly and moved the cameras along to the next picture. The polish stays on the screen. Behind it, unanswered questions, sealed files, and cases the studios wanted forgotten faster than the public could ask why. We're starting in 1922, with the murder that taught Hollywood how to make a scandal disappear. William Desmond Taylor was one of the most respected directors in silent film, the kind of man other directors wanted to be. On the morning of February 2nd, 1922, his valet found him lying on the floor of his bungalow, dead from a single gunshot wound to the back. Before police even arrived, studio executives from Paramount had already been through the house, removing letters, alcohol, and anything that might embarrass their stars. 2 actresses were tied to him romantically: Mabel Normand, who admitted she'd left his house less than an hour before the shot, and 19-year-old Mary Miles Minter, whose love letters turned up in his closet, along with a monogrammed nightgown. Both women's careers were destroyed by suspicion alone. The gun was never found. The case was never closed. 100 years later, the LAPD still lists it as open. Peg Entwistle came to Hollywood at 24 with a Broadway resume and a single film credit that hadn't yet been released. On September 18, 1932, she climbed the maintenance ladder on the back of the Hollywoodland sign, the one still overlooking the city today with 4 letters gone. She left her coat and shoes folded at the base of the letter H and jumped 50 feet onto the rocks below. A hiker found her body the next day. The tragic irony arrived 2 days after her funeral. A letter came to her uncle's house offering her the lead role in a new stage production, the break she'd come to California chasing. The sign was never meant to outlive the real estate company that built it. Because of her, it never came down. Paul Bern was one of MGM's most powerful producers when he married 21-year-old Jean Harlow, the studio's biggest star, in 1932. 2 months later, his valet found him naked and dead in their bedroom, a bullet in his head and a note beside the body that read like a confession to something no one could identify. The official ruling was suicide. Whispers of murder followed Harlow for the rest of her life. 5 years later, at 26, she collapsed on set from kidney failure that had gone untreated for years, partly because her mother's religious beliefs kept her from proper medical care. She was dead within days. MGM had lost its 2 brightest stories in the same house, 5 years apart, and never fully explained either one. They called her Hot Toddy, a comedian with a laugh you could hear across a soundstage, and a restaurant on the Pacific Coast Highway that carried her name. On December 16, 1935, her housekeeper found her slumped in the front seat of her Lincoln convertible, parked in the garage above the restaurant, dead from carbon monoxide poisoning. The coroner's jury ruled it accidental. Investigators weren't convinced. There was blood on her lip that didn't match a fall, a broken nose that predated the car, and rumors that mob figures had leaned on her to let them run gambling out of her restaurant's upper floor. Her death was ruled accidental in 8 days flat, one of the fastest closures of any major Hollywood case on record. To an entire generation of children, George Reeves was Superman. Unbreakable, immortal, faster than anything on the screen. On June 16, 1959, he was found dead in his bedroom from a single gunshot, and the official verdict was suicide. His fiancée's account of the night kept shifting. Guests downstairs said they heard a door close, then a shot, with no time for a suicide note that was never found anyway. There were no fingerprints on the gun. 2 other bullet holes were later discovered in the bedroom, never explained in the original report. Friends said Reeves had been anxious about being permanently typecast as a superhero, unable to land serious roles again. Whether that was motive or simply the story people needed to believe, the case was closed within weeks and never reopened. She was the most photographed woman on Earth, and the most alone. On the night of August 4, 1962, Marilyn Monroe was found dead in her Brentwood bedroom, an empty bottle of sleeping pills on the nightstand. The coroner ruled it a probable suicide. What followed was decades of contradictions, a housekeeper who gave 3 different timelines for when she found the body, a locked-door mystery that made no physical sense, phone records that vanished from the exchange, and rumored connections to the Kennedy family that the FBI's own files, once released, never fully closed off. No official investigation has ever reversed the original ruling. No one has ever explained away every detail either. 60 years on, her death is still the single most argued-over case in American entertainment history. Sharon Tate was 8 months pregnant, married to director Roman Polanski, and rising fast as one of the industry's most promising young stars. On the night of August 8, 1969, members of Charles Manson's cult broke into her rented home on Cielo Drive and murdered her, along with 4 others present that night. The killings were random in the sense that the house, not the people in it, had been the target. Manson was reportedly settling a score with the home's previous tenant, a music producer who'd rejected him. The murders ended the decade's idea of Hollywood as a sun-drenched refuge and replaced it with a fear that never fully left the hills. Manson never set foot in the house. He didn't need to. Bob Crane spent 6 seasons as the wisecracking hero of Hogan's Heroes, one of primetime television's biggest stars. Away from the cameras, he'd built a private life around a hobby that would define his death: amateur pornography. Filmed with a friend named John Carpenter using early video equipment. On June 29, 1978, Crane was found beaten to death in an Arizona apartment, a cord wrapped around his neck. Carpenter was tried for the murder in 1994, 16 years after the killing, and acquitted for lack of physical evidence linking him to the scene. No one else was ever charged. The case remains officially unsolved, one of the only instances in American history where a single named suspect stood trial and walked free, with nobody else ever brought forward since. Dorothy Stratten was 20 years old, a former Playboy Playmate of the Year, and just beginning to land real film roles, when her estranged husband, small-time manager Paul Snyder, lured her to his apartment on August 14, 1980. He shot her, then turned the gun on himself. Snyder had discovered her plans to leave him for director Peter Bogdanovich and could not accept losing the one thing that had made him relevant in an industry that otherwise ignored him. Her death became a symbol of everything predatory about how the industry could package a young woman's image and hand control of her life to men who saw her as property. Bogdanovich later married her younger sister, a choice that still unsettles people decades later. Natalie Wood had been a star since childhood, one of the rare few who made the leap from child actor to lasting adult career. On the night of November 28, 1981, she drowned off Catalina Island after a boat trip with her husband Robert Wagner and actor Christopher Walken. The official cause was accidental drowning, but the internal contradictions never went away. Bruises on her body that didn't match a simple fall, a loud argument reportedly heard from nearby boats, and a dinghy found adrift with her body found later, fully clothed, some distance from the yacht. The Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department reopened the case in 2011 and formally named Wagner a person of interest in 2018. No charges have ever been filed. The file remains open to this day. David Carradine had spent 5 decades on screen, from Kung Fu in the 70s to a late career resurgence in Kill Bill. On June 3, 2009, he was found dead in a hotel room in Bangkok, discovered hanging inside a closet with cords tied around his body. Thai police initially ruled it a suicide. His family fought that finding for years, hiring independent investigators who argued the position of the body and the ligature marks were more consistent with autoerotic asphyxiation gone wrong, an accident rather than an intentional death. A private examiner in the United States eventually reversed the suicide ruling. What actually happened in that closet in Bangkok has never been settled by any court in any country to anyone's full satisfaction. 11 deaths. 11 files that were closed faster than they should have been, or never closed at all. What connects a silent film director in 1922 to a kung fu star dying in Bangkok in 2009? Isn't the decade or the method. It's an industry built entirely on control. Control of image, control of story, control of what the public is allowed to see once the cameras stop rolling. Every one of these people spent their careers being watched by millions. In the end, Almost no one was watching closely enough to see what actually happened to them. If this kept you here until the last frame, you already know why these stories don't stay buried. Subscribe for the next one.